Welcome everybody, and yeah, this is like Lisa told us her great story. I love that about next door neighbor. It's zucchini time of year, and I have to get kicked. I was just preparing for class on Monday, and the Colorado Sun, which is a new nonprofit online newspaper, the editor had on Friday asked readers for a few zucchini recipes that they could put in, something different to use with zucchini. And I guess in 24 hours, he'd already gotten 100 different responses. And so now they call that Zucchini Insanity is the name of their contest. And so it's just, and all the newspapers are always doing this time of year, there's always lots of recipes for zucchini. So it is kind of nice to have a few different options with it because it is so plentiful. And so today I wanted to share a kind of a different one, which is a quick zucchini soup that's kind of creamy and pureed. And a couple of the things I really like about this recipe, why I'm excited to share it, is one, it's super quick because a lot of us don't like to spend a lot of time cooking in the summer. Two, it doesn't heat up the kitchen because we're going to use the microwave, which you might be wondering about that, but hold on and I'll show you how that works. And then three, it's super healthy. As Helen's going to talk to you, zucchini actually has a fair amount of nutrition in it, and the whole dish just has zucchini and a little bit of broth is basically the recipe. And so no gobbledygook, just real whole foods. So a good, healthy recipe. And the most exciting thing, I think, is that it's so versatile. When I was testing this, I kept making different versions. I came up with 5 different versions and really liked every one of them. And so I'm going to be excited to show you how it's a really easy recipe to vary with just a couple swaps in and out. We're going to talk about that later. That's the soup system that we're going to be talking about. And I hope you'll come away from this class with this big takeaway that zucchini is a really good canvas that you can paint in lots of different ways. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started with that introduction. And remember that in the New Kitchen Way, which is the name of our nonprofit, they're called the New Kitchen. In the New Kitchen Way, we get started cooking by getting prepared to cook. 2 levels, big level, big mise en place. Mise en place just means having everything in its place. And the big level is knowing what you're going to make, having the recipe, having the right ingredients. And we've got all that done for you. We sent you the recipe, we know what we're making, and we sent you the shopping list. So you should be all prepared. Then there's little mise en place. See, the big mise en place happens before you even get to the kitchen. You did all that before you even got here. But now that we're in the kitchen, what we want to do is what's traditionally called mise en place, set up the kitchen. That means having out all the equipment and the ingredients that you need so that you don't get flustered and stressed out. Everything's here at your fingertips. The only thing that I didn't include in the mise en place list was it's helpful to have a 4-cup Pyrex if you've got it, or a 2-cup. But if all you've got is a 1-cup measure cup, that'll be fine for measuring the zucchini. But if you have a chance and got one of these, you might want to pull it out now. So then the other thing that's really helpful when it comes to before you start and you want to get prepared to cook without stress is to know your game plan. That means review your recipe. And Lisa, if you could go ahead and screen share the zucchini recipe. I'm hoping that everybody's had a chance to print out the recipe. It makes it a lot easier to follow along in class. So just in case you haven't had a chance to print out the recipe, I wanted to put this up so you could follow along. And there's really just 5 easy steps for this recipe. And now, speaking of which, here, let me get mine out so I can get you the right steps. So step 1 is we're going to cook a little bit of bacon, and we're going to do that in the saucepan. So we're only going to get 1 dish dirty. Then number 2, we're going to cook the zucchini, and that will be in the microwave, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Step 3 is we're going to bloom the seasonings. And you can see that you might be wondering, well, what does that mean to bloom the seasoning? And we'll talk about that. Then we're going to puree everything. We're going to puree the zucchini with a little bit of broth. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and simmer it together, finish the soup off, and put in our accessories. Now that we've kind of got, we're all prepared to cook, now it's time to go ahead and actually do the cooking. And like I said, step 1 of the recipe is frying up the bacon. And we're not going to fry up that much, just a couple, maybe 2 or 3 slices. And we're doing this so that it makes a nice little topping for the soup. And it also goes really well with the Cuban flavors that we're going to be using. So I went ahead and pulled out 2 slices of bacon, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those in half because I'm cooking them in my soup pot here, which is just a heavy bottom saute pan. So I'll go ahead and put those in there. One of the things I've found is that one of the aggravating things about cooking bacon, it seems to me, is that it always shrivels up and then parts of it kind of burn or almost overcook, and then parts of it don't seem to be cooked. So one of the things that I've found that can help with that is to lay it in the pan when the pan is still cold or just heating up. And that helps a little. The other thing that can help is, and I'll take this back out, but you know, you've got this fatty edge, and that's the edge that always seems to, let me hold this way, there, that holds better, it's fine. And then what I can do is put a little, just a little nick in that real fatty edge, maybe 1 or 2. That will help it continue to lay flat and cook evenly in the pan. So I've got my pan on about medium heat, and I'm going to go ahead and let that bacon cook, and then we'll get it out and chop it up. In the meantime, I'm going to move this cutting board because I did cut the bacon on it, and I'll use this cutting board because we can use this to go ahead and start cutting the zucchini while we're waiting for the bacon to cook. So the zucchini is the next step of the recipe, and I've got a couple here, and I'm going to just show you this one. Here, I'll just come up over here and see. You can see this is the one from my garden. Can you learn, does it show up that you can see that it's kind of striped? And there's a special name for this, but I can't remember what, well, even if I did, I couldn't pronounce it. It's kind of a French name. So I'm not going to try to butcher that, but it is kind of fun to see. There's lots of different varieties of zucchini out there. So any of those would work for you. Did I hear somebody maybe talking? No, okay, fine. So the way that I'm going to be cutting the zucchini, because we're cutting it in the microwave, one of the advantages of that, let's see, do we need to make sure everybody's muted?
Yeah, I just muted that person.
Okay, all right. I only say that because if you've got a question, please do ask, but we just want to make sure everybody can hear and not get distracted. Okay, so the way I'm going to be cutting the zucchini is I'm cutting it down lengthwise, just like this, into 2 equal halves. And then this zucchini is not very fat. So I'm just going to cut it into spears, 4 spears total. And then I can gather those all together. I'm cutting them into 3/4 to 1 inch chunks. I'll show you a little better close-up of that. Let me move up just a little bit and show you this. So this is where, let's see, Lauren, can you just take that camera? Yeah. So the size, pieces are coming out to be about this size, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and put those in my my Pyrex measuring cup, which makes it easy to measure out 4 cups. And now when I do this one, here's my other zucchini. You can see it's a nice fat one. And so when I do that one, I'm going to cut it just a little bit differently because it's a lot bigger. And now this reminds me, one of the things that I want to mention is that zucchini is best when it's eaten in season and when it's fresher. Now, in the winter, of course, we have all our root vegetables, and there's a lot of other vegetables that can last quite a while in the refrigerator. But the fact is that with the zucchini, it can turn bitter on you or just kind of become flavorless the older it gets. So if your zucchini's been there a couple days, like this one, you might want to. The little tip I do is I just take a little sliver and taste it to make sure that it hasn't turned bitter and that it's not lost all of its flavor. And this one is still really good. So it doesn't necessarily be a problem if you had it a few days. Just taste it. But if you taste it and it's bitter, then my suggestion is please, you're going to have to get rid of it. We hate food waste, but a bitter zucchini will take and make the whole dish taste bitter. So go ahead and taste your zucchinis, unless they're really fresh. Like this one I just picked out of my garden yesterday. So I have pretty much confidence in that one. But this one, I'm going to go ahead and taste it and make sure that it was a good tasting zucchini, and it is. So that's going to be great. Now, maybe let's stop for just a second and turn to our bacon. And mine is, what's really nice. Lauren, can you just show this? Because I put it in that cold pan, you can see that it's still flat on the bottom of the pan. So, which is kind of nice. Now let's see what happens if I flip them. But I think yours are probably ready to go ahead and be flipped. So go ahead and do that. And I'm going to actually turn my pan down a little because mine are cooking a little bit quickly. So go ahead and do that. It is a little hard to turn things over when you're in a saucepan. So you could do yours in a frying pan, but I just didn't want to dirty another pan. Who wants another pan to wash, right? So I'm getting all of my bacon turned over. And yeah, I'm going to give that a couple more minutes. And then in the meantime, I'll go back over to my zucchini and cut that up. Now see, with this big fat one, I'm going to cut that into 3 spears so that my pieces come out roughly equally sized to the pieces that I already cut up from the smaller zucchini. Because one of the things we're going to get into when we talk about microwaving these, and actually it doesn't matter which way you cook a vegetable, you always want the pieces somewhat equally sized, because that means that they will cook evenly, and that's what we always want. We don't want some cooked part way and others cooked too much. So that's why we're always trying to do this thing where we get these equally sized pieces. So now I'm going to go ahead and do this other one. There we go, and I'm going to move this up a little bit so make sure you can see me okay. So I've got these 3 pieces of the zucchini. I've tried to cut those pretty equally. And then I'm going to cut those into just like I said, 3/4 to 1 inch pieces. And I can tell that my bacon is probably just about done. So there we go. And you can see there are my pieces. They're all pretty equally sized. Now I may have, I have just about 4 cups, maybe just a little extra. I'll take that out. But there's my 4 cups, and that's going to go right into, I've got a glass dish here. And try to avoid microwaving in plastic. Do we have a question?
No,
okay.
There was a problem with the focus.
Oh, okay, alrighty. Alright, so we'll go ahead and put that in there. And I'm going to come right back to that. But first, I want to go ahead and get that bacon out, because mine is cooked perfectly, and happily, it did not shrivel up. I think a lot of it is putting it in that cold pan. I'd love to know if anybody else has experienced that. Did you find that your bacon stayed nice and flat and cooked evenly by putting it into a cold pan? So I'm taking that out and putting it onto my my cutting board. Well, I can't get that last one, so don't do this. But I'm going to do that with my finger. Don't do that yourself. A fork could be a better idea. Okay, so then in my pan, this was pretty lean bacon. I've only got like just a tablespoon of the bacon fat. So I'm going to leave that in there because that is going to be the fat that I use for blooming the seasoning, which we'll do in just a minute. If you have more than that, I had a little glass jar out, and I was going to pour any excess into here if I had more than a tablespoon. But it looks like I've got just a tablespoon in there. And now go ahead and turn that pan off. And you might be wondering, well, what about the bacon that has kind of the fond, they call it, I'm pretty sure, that's on the bottom of the pan? What is that going to be okay? Well, actually, with the Cuban Island spice, the bacon and this business that's on the glaze that's on the bottom of the pan is actually pretty flavorful, and it will add a nice flavor to the soup. So we're going to leave it right there. It'll get deglazed when we put the pureed zucchini in there. So good. So we've got our bacon done. We've got our zucchini cut. And I'm going to stop for just a minute and see if anybody's got any questions before we move on, because I want to make sure you got these first two steps okay. So Lauren and Lisa, do we look okay? Okay.
No questions.
Alrighty then.
Karen agrees with you. Karen agrees with you that the cold pan for the bacon keeps it flat.
Oh, good. Okay, then I'm not crazy. All right. I like that. Thank you, Karen. Okay, good. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and then we're going to go ahead and on the zucchini, we're going to cook it in the microwave, like I said, but we're going to go ahead and salt and pepper it a little bit, you know, to taste. Just remember that zucchini can take a little more salt because it is a little bit bland. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in, but note that I'm not putting any water in. I'm not putting any oil in, because here's the thing about zucchini. It's a very waterlogged vegetable. And so we don't need any more water to cook it. It'll be just fine in the microwave. And now, speaking of the microwave, let's go ahead and I'm going to do a little sleight of hand here. I'm going to put this one in. So I was going to put this one in. But what I've got is I've got one that's almost cooked, and I'm actually going to cook this one. It's the same as the other one. And let me get a fork out. If you don't have a fork out, get one out. Because here's the thing that we need to do. My microwave is so loud that I was concerned about using it in class. So I got this one. I've cooked it part of the way, and then I won't have to have the microwave on anymore. So what has to happen with our zucchini is we're going to cook it in the microwave. And you might have thought, well, wait a minute, Mary, that seems really weird. But two reasons for that. The first of those is that, like I've mentioned, zucchini is a very waterlogged vegetable. Water doesn't have a lot of flavor. So that means zucchini can be a bit on the bland side. So when we cook it, we want to find a way to cook it that keeps in as much flavor as we can. Now, a lot of times we grill and we saute zucchini, and those are two good ways to cook zucchini and keep the flavor in. But what's interesting is that we had a class, it's been a number of years ago, where we were playing with different ways to cook zucchini. And we decided, let's try it in the microwave. And we were all pleasantly surprised that indeed it really retained the flavor. In fact, I found out that I kind of liked it almost as well as any other method, and maybe just a little bit better. So can I encourage you to try the microwave? If you don't have one, you could steam it. But if you do have one, most of us do. Let's go ahead and try this. Now, here's the thing about it. Why I'm stirring this is that when we cook in the microwave, and I'm going to actually go ahead and put this in so we can start. And I apologize that my microwave is so loud, but I'll try to talk over it. But what I'm doing is I'm cooking the zucchini in 2-minute intervals. And the recipe tells you to do this. In between the intervals, we stir it. The whole reason for that is that with microwaves, they're wonderful, but you know, they don't cook food evenly. We know that. And so mine even has a turntable in it, and it doesn't cook evenly. So that's why I do it in these intervals. Stir it, do it in another interval, stir it, and do it in another interval. And so in my microwave, 6 minutes, broken up into 3 2-minute intervals, is enough to cook the zucchini. But the other thing you need to know about microwaves, other than the fact that they don't cook evenly, is that microwaves vary quite a bit from microwave to microwave. Now mine is a really big, powerful one, which is why it's so noisy. 6 minutes is plenty to get the zucchini done. If yours is smaller, you may well need to do another interval, or at least a half an interval.
Except we don't have a microwave, so how else?
Okay. Yes, if you don't have a microwave, yes, this came up in another class as well. Just go ahead and steam it. Now, you might follow a little bit behind us because you got to get your water boiling. But yes, I think steaming would be the next best thing. Okay. Yeah. But just put in a steam tray over water and let it go. And it won't take long, because that's the thing that we're going to talk about is how do you know if your zucchini is done or not? And what we're looking for on the zucchini is that it's tender, but still a little bit firm. We want to avoid going to the mushy side of things, because that's when the zucchini can get kind of distasteful and lose its flavor. Okay, so let's go ahead and see. Now we're done. So this is my second round of 2 minutes. And so I'm taking it out of the microwave. You might need pot holders, because sometimes, you can see how I'm stirring this, right? You might need pot holders because sometimes, it's hot when you take it out of the microwave. And you might have also noticed that, you always want to take the lid off away from you. I think you all probably know that, but just a reminder. So I'm looking at my zucchini. I'm going to push this up, and Lauren, if you could tip that camera. So let's take a look at one piece. Maybe what I'll do is put it on the cutting board here. Watch as I put that fork in. It's definitely losing its firmness, but it's still pretty darn firm. It's getting tender now. Like the smaller pieces are pretty tender. And that's, again, why this was my big piece, and that's why it's being a problem, not cooking as fast as the smaller ones. That's why we like to try to get the pieces evenly sized. But mine are pretty close. But I can see that this is going to need just a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm going to put it in for just 1 minute, because it does seem like today it's cooking just a little faster. So I'll put it in for just 1 minute, and we'll see how that looks at the end. So I hope, is everybody else getting their zucchini cooked? And you're stirring it in between, and is that working out okay for you? Okay, so I'm just going to double check and make sure that I've gotten all my points in here that I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I think I did. How about that? And when we're done cooking that zucchini, I want to challenge you to take out a piece or two and let them cool. And just while we're cooking, would you taste them and see what you think? Because I want to see if anybody else is surprised at how flavorful they are when they're cooked in the microwave. And the person who's steaming them, you let us know how it goes for you as well. Okay, so now we're waiting on our zucchini. And while we're waiting, we can go ahead, and there's mine. I think it's done. Let's go ahead and take a look at it and just see. Sometimes I just take and shake mine instead of stirring too. And I think that works pretty well. Maybe not quite as well as stirring, but I can look at mine and I can see it's definitely getting much more tender. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm giving you things to ways you can look and test these. The other thing you can do is just taste it and see, does it taste nice and tender, but not too mushy. And like this is a perfect example right here. You can see that I am, my fork goes in very easily, but it's not getting all mushy. Okay, so let's see, does anybody have any questions about that? So I think I'm going to stop at 5 minutes total on mine, which is interesting because it usually does take closer to 6, but today I think it's, we just got a speedy day. So anybody got any questions on that? Are you doing okay? Like I say, just taste it. In fact, be sure you take out a piece or two when it's done, set it here, and I want you to taste that later on and see what you think. Okay, so now we're ready to go to step 3 of the recipe. We've done step 1, we've cooked the bacon, we've got the bacon fat that we can bloom our seasoning in. We've cooked the zucchini. Now we're going to do this thing called blooming the seasonings. And what that means, the blooming, well, first go ahead and turn your bacon pan back on no more than medium high. Sorry, not medium high, medium low, okay? We're going to warm up that oil. While we do, let me tell you what blooming the seasoning means. Some of you have been in my spicing and seasoning classes, and so you know what that means. It's what we do to kind of bring out the flavor. We apply heat to the spice alone, and it brings out the flavor of that spice or the herb that you're using and makes it a little more flavorful in the dish. So you can think of it kind of blooming a flower, but the blooming of the spice brings out its flavor and its fragrance. So that's why we're going to do this in the bacon fat. Now, if you're doing the vegetarian version, you obviously skipped the bacon part. I'm sure you knew that. But what you'll do is use your olive oil. A tablespoon of olive oil will be just fine for this. Okay, so now, like I said, we just want it to be on no more than about medium high, or I keep saying that, medium low. And then we're going to go ahead and put the Cuban island spice in there. We're just using one spice, which makes this so easy because this is a blend, has all the spices in it. So let's go ahead and put that in. Now, how much are you going to put in? The recipe tells you 1 to 2 teaspoons. If you're new to spicing and seasonings, or you don't know this flavor, you can start with just 1 teaspoon. I know this flavor. I know I love it. I put it in lots of dishes. So I'm putting in 2 teaspoons. In fact, I might have gotten just a little bit more in there. But don't worry, because later when we taste and adjust the seasonings, you'll have an opportunity to add more. And even if you don't bloom it first, it's okay. It'll be fine to just add more later on. But what we want to do, and I'll come up closer here, or Lauren, can you just tip it? I've got my bacon fat in there. Let's see, there we go. I've got my bacon fat in here, and I put my Cuban island spice. Can you see that okay? Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Okay. And then I'm stirring the Cuban island spice into the bacon fat. And I mean, I can smell it already. Lauren, can you smell it? Lauren is here filming with me today. And what we're trying to do, blooming just means, like I said, we're blooming forth the flavor and the fragrance. And so, well, you can smell this, and it smells so delicious. So here's the only danger. So easy, right? You just put the spices in oil. You can also do this in a dry pan if you wanted to. The oil just helps pull out more flavor, and then it will be able to spread it through the dish a little bit better as well. So that's why we're using that. But while it's simple, the thing is, spices and herbs can burn pretty easily. That's why we're keeping the heat on medium low, even low if you're worried about it. And then we're only letting it go a couple minutes. I'm smelling it, and so I'm going, that's done, okay? So now go ahead, turn it off again, because we don't want to burn that, or remove it from the heat, whichever. Okay. Okay, so now our seasonings bloom. That's all that takes. We're just applying a little heat to bring out the flavor. Now we're going on to step number 5, or 4 it is, where we're going to blend and puree the zucchini. So just in case, while I'm going to pour my zucchini into my Vitamix. I'm using the Vitamix. Does anybody have any questions before I go on? Lauren, are you seeing anybody? Or Lisa, are you seeing anything?
Someone said Cuban spice goes really well with black beans.
Oh, yes. And so if you're doing the vegetarian version, I have not tried that, but I thought it could be a pretty good combo. So I'm going to be interested to hear what you think at the end. Okay. Excellent.
Mary?
Yes.
Rose said use spices instead of salt.
Use spices instead of
Yes,
salt.
yes, Rose, that's exactly right. And Rose, go ahead. You don't have to add any salt now. And if you eat a lot of low sodium foods, you might not notice it. The thing about zucchini is, like I say, it can be pretty darn bland because of its water content. So a lot of times it does need a little more salt than you usually put in things. But for sure, just do it what tastes good to you. So don't worry about the salt now if you don't want to put any in now. But when we taste and adjust the seasonings, if you feel like, oh God, this is really just bland, you might need to add a little then. Okay, but yes, this Cuban island spice can definitely, that's what's great about spices, is they reduce our need for salt, or maybe eliminate it, like in your case, it sounds like. Okay, anything else, Lauren? Or Lisa?
I mean, Helen pointed out that there are nice no salt spice combos from Savory Spice,
Or from Natural Grocers?
or well, from Savory.
Oh, yes, yes, exactly, exactly. I can't remember if Cuban Island spice has salt in it. It might. And that's a good thing to check if you're concerned about your sodium levels. It's a good thing to check. So I've got my zucchini in my Vitamix, and now I'm going to add half a cup of the broth. Now, if you're the vegetarian version, you of course use a vegetable broth. I love Imagine's vegetable broth, really a good clean broth. If you don't have your own broth, you know, you can use the chicken broth. I'm always encouraging people to really use a good broth, one that's more than just salt water with chicken flavor in it. So read the ingredient listing and make sure that you're getting one with the fewest added ingredients. The bone broths that they carry at Natural Grocers are one of the best. I think it's Pacific Foods. I'm using my own homemade bone broth, which is great because it's free. And this one looks a little green because I had a bunch of carrot tops, and so I threw those in there when I was cooking the bones down. So you might be wondering, well, a half a cup of broth doesn't sound like much. Well, that's because, again, the zucchini's already got so much water in it. It doesn't need a lot more. But it is nice to add that little bit of broth because that adds a little more flavor to the soup, which, you know, is a good thing with this kind of bland zucchini. So now I'm going to go ahead and puree this. I'm using the Vitamix because I really like the pureed soups when they're really silky smooth, kind of velvety. But don't worry if all you've got is a regular blender or just a food processor or immersion blender. Anything you've got will be fine. And it may not be quite as smooth, but you may like it that way. Or you may just not want to puree it until it's real smooth. You may like a little texture in it. So we'll go ahead and blend this. And now if you thought this was loud, this is really, really loud. So Lauren's going to mute me while I'm doing this. Everybody get their soup blended up. Okay, and now I might have left mine. I might have done mine a little bit more if I was by myself, but I said we'll just make it. We'll just go ahead with just this much for today. Okay, but now we get on to step number 5. Let's see. No, step number 5. Yep, the last step. So we have cooked our bacon, we have it ready, we bloomed our spices, we pureed the zucchini. Now we just pull it all together. We go ahead and we're going to pour this into that Cuban Islands spice bloom down there. I'm going to turn my burner on like medium high because we're going to go ahead and bring this to a boil. And then we're going to turn it down and simmer it. And now, truth be told, that I have done this before where I've just blended the soup, shaken in a little spice, and eaten it right away. And if you're really hungry, like sometimes I am, that's perfectly fine. But what's really nice is to let the soup have a chance to simmer and melt the flavors together. And so what that does is it allows the whole reason we cook is to make the whole greater than the sum of the parts. And it is the cooking part that kind of allows that to happen. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my spatula, and remember all that bacon bits that was on the bottom of the pan? I'm using my spatula to deglaze the bottom of the pan. By the way, it's also cleaning your pan. And then I'm mixing that all together while I bring the soup to a boil. And there we go. We've got that all together there. And now I'm going to just go ahead and put the lid on the pan and let that, mine's already boiling. I'm going to turn it down to simmer now, and we'll just let that cook for about 5 minutes. And in this little bit of time, what I want to do is take a minute to talk about something that's called the soup system. And Lisa, if you could go ahead and put the soup matrix up on the screen, that would be great. And you might have remembered I talked about the soup system in one of my emails, and it was mentioned in the description of the class. And so you might be wondering, well, what is this soup matrix thing? Well, what it is, it's kind of a different approach to cooking. I'm just finding my notes here. The best way to describe it is that it's gravitating away from looking at a recipe as a single recipe. Like, I'm going to make just this recipe and that's the only thing that recipe ever makes. Instead, it helps us begin to look at recipes as outlines and understand the underlying structure of the recipe. The end result is that we start seeing a single recipe as really an outline for dozens of dishes that we can make just by swapping out certain parts and pieces. Benefits of this kind of cooking approach is that, one, it's less tedious and a lot faster than our usual cooking, because you know the base recipe and you're just swapping parts in and out. You don't have to learn a whole new recipe every time you want to cook something different. If you can begin to cook more confidently because you are a little more comfortable cooking that one dish. It allows you to exercise your creativity, which is really makes cooking so much more fun. And you're going to find that as we go on with this, and we got a contest coming up where you get to exercise that creativity and see how much fun it is. Then you can also begin to be able to use what you have in the refrigerator or the cupboards. Use up some of those things that are sitting around. Saves money and avoids food waste. And then finally, best of all, you can make things just the way you like, which is how we get to really make dishes that will, healthy dishes that we'll really enjoy, as well as dishes that are good for us. So let's go ahead and why I put up this chart here is that I hope will help you understand how the soup system works. So this chart is broken into two parts. The top part, and let me grab mine so that actually I can kind of just look at the one that's on screen. The top part is your basic elements. That is the least that you need for soup. You need to have a vegetable base. You need to have a liquid and some salt. And so that vegetable base, I'm always encouraging people to like, one of the great things about Natural Grocers is all their produce is organic and I get great produce there. That's carrying the weight of the soup. So get a good one. You can't make a bad vegetable into a good soup. Your liquid, as we talked about, you want a good broth, a little bit of salt. If you eat salt, that'll help bring out the flavor. So that's the least you need for a dish. Now, but I have a lot of fun when I can add different things to these pureed soup. Maybe a little heat, so I'm going to add some pepper. Well, I might not add pepper to this because the Cuban island spice is a little bit spicy, so I may or may not add more pepper. The seasoning, in this case, we added the Cuban island spice. And then the fat, we're using the bacon fat or the olive oil for the vegetarian version. And, oh, speaking of vegetarian version, for the people who are vegetarian, this would be a good time to add your beans so they can, your black beans, so they can simmer along with the soup for a little bit. So sorry, go ahead and do that while I'm talking. And Julia Child was always after us because a lot of us were raised in the no-fat days. And Julia Child was always after us. We need fat. We don't need a lot, but a little bit to pull out the flavor in a dish. Aromatics, you know, onions, garlic, ginger. Isn't it interesting that in almost all of our classes, we always start class by sauteing an onion and garlic? In this case, we didn't do that, but you could. You could have sauteed that in the bacon fat and added that as well. You might want some secondary vegetables, like maybe some bits of red pepper, maybe a little bit of carrots for color. You could add a protein, like the beans, and we're going to put a little bit of bacon on top. And then, of course, there's always, and starches as well. And then there's always the accessories. In this case, it's going to be lime and cilantro. And those are what's really fun to bring out even more flavor. And you get all these different tastes going on. All of a sudden, you've got a dish that you'll love. And you can see by looking at this matrix how easy it was to come up with the vegetarian version. We just swapped out for the bacon, we swapped out beans. For the fat, we swapped out olive oil. And of course, we just skipped the whole first step with cooking the bacon. So you can see how it's pretty easy to make up your own creative soup creation. In fact, one of our previous class members watched this this video, I did one for Natural Grocers, just a quick one of it. He went home, after he saw it, he got busy and made a cauliflower version using olive oil, garlic, and vindaloo curry. So just that easily, he made a whole different soup, but the same structure. Okay, so now that I've explained this soup system, and by the way, let's give your soup a little stir here. And I hope everybody's soup is looking good. Mine's doing really well. I'm going to leave the lid off now, just so, because maybe it'll kind of thicken that soup just a little bit. You can leave this cover on or off. So now we get to the contest that Lisa mentioned earlier. This is your turn to be creative. And so it's an easy contest to enter, and I don't want anybody to get nervous. There's nothing monumental required of you, but I would love to see what kind of ideas you might come up with for how you would modify things to make your own soup, or your own soup variation. You could maybe come up with an idea to modify the Cuban island version that we're doing today. I came up with a Mexican version, a curried version, and an Italian version. You might come up with a Chinese or a French or something like that. Or you could come up with kind of a whole different soup like David did. He did a cauliflower-based soup. You might come up with some neat starch that you'd like to add, or a different protein. So what we'd like to do is encourage us all to share so we can all get some new ideas of how we can do this. And by the way, I wrote up the Italian, Mexican, and curried version. And those who will join my email list, or if you're already on it, I'll send those to you for free after class. If you want to join my email list, just go to thenewkitchen.org. And maybe, Lauren, if you don't mind putting that in the chat, thenewkitchen.org. Sign up for my newsletter, you'll get those as well. But for now, let's talk about what other ideas might be springing to mind for you. Go ahead, put them in the chat. Lisa and I will take a look at them while Helen's talking, and we'll come up with some winners by the end of class. For those wonderful, that bag of polenta, which I've got a bag of it here as well. Natural Grocers Organic Polenta. And then this is really neat. I'm excited to try this. It's Santini's sun-dried tomato pesto. So you'll go ahead and do that while I'm going to go ahead and we're going to finish the soup. I'm going to start the polenta, and then Helen's going to be talking. Okay, so start putting your ideas in the chat, because we want to be able to have some fun ideas that we can judge. So now let's go back. We can go back to our soup and just wrap it up. And actually, it's all together, except for we need to finish all the fun parts at the end. Number one, that would be, I'm going to go ahead and turn mine off. Number one, that would be our bacon. We want to go ahead and chop that up. And then number two, there's a part of the recipe that you always want to remember to do. And a lot of times we get hungry and we just want to eat it really quick. Can I encourage you to instead take a couple minutes to taste and adjust the seasonings? And what that means is simply in the mise en place list, I always get a little tasting bowl and spoon. Spoon a little bit into your bowl, let it cool, and then you're going to want to taste that. And the first thing I always tell people is make sure it doesn't need more salt, because a lot of times we do want to be careful with salt. But that might be the biggest thing you need right there. But then go ahead and try that lime. And lime is really kind of not optional. That's why it's in the take and make kits. Go ahead and put just a couple drops of lime in there. Taste it again. See how that goes. You might not need much more salt. Maybe you need just a sprinkle or two more of the Cuban island spice. And lastly, don't forget we've got our wonderful cilantro. So what I always do is, let me just move that so you can see I kind of bunch this together. So I'll come a little closer here. Lord, do you mind tipping that? what I do, and there's my zucchini that was straight out of the microwave. I'm going to taste it later. I hope you've tasted it. Want to hear your opinions. But what I do is I just bunch my zucchini all together there and cilantro. Thank you. That's why I have Lauren here. And then just chop it one way and the other. And I hope you saw in the mise en place instructions, I told you if you could, wash that zucchini well in advance so it has a chance to dry, and that's why it's so easy to chop. I washed it this morning and had a chance to dry thoroughly. So then we go ahead and put some of that on. And now you want to just taste it after each addition and see how you like it. Okay, so I'm going to get your feedback on that in just a minute. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start so like just the moral of that story is don't forget to taste and adjust the seasoning step. But now I want to go ahead and just start the polenta so that then we can get on and hear what all the good stuff that Helen's got to tell us. So why am I doing Helen? Do you mind moving the camera over this way? Okay. Why am I doing polenta? Where did that come from? Well, the thing is, this zucchini soup is wonderful, but it isn't a complete meal. And I was thinking about and casting about ideas. And I said, wouldn't it be nice to have polenta with this? And the reason I picked polenta is that I love it because the yellow color is going to go so nicely with the zucchini soup. I also love it because it's really, really simple. And when we made a soup that is a little more complicated, we don't need more than one more complicated dish in a meal. You have permission to make the rest of the meal really, really simple. And so that's why I chose polenta. And I'm going to show you in a minute that there's even a simpler way to get polenta than cooking it yourself. But we'll go ahead. Now, the other thing is what I'm doing is I'm boiling you've got this recipe in your handouts, but I'm boiling the 3½ cups of water, and I'm putting that little bit of salt in. And it looks like I'm almost out of salt there. But polenta is another thing, again, that doesn't have a tremendous amount of flavor on its own. So that's why it could need some salt. It's also really important to think about how experts have told us that when we're concerned about sodium, a lot of the problem isn't so much with the sodium that's in real whole foods. Polenta has no salt in it. The problem is generally a lot more has to do with when we're eating a lot of processed foods where they do put a lot of sodium into them. And so that's when you really need to start watching things. But when you're making a real whole food polenta that has no sodium in it, you might need to add a little salt to make it taste okay. So we're going to go ahead, bring this to a boil, and then we're going to add some milk. I add milk because it just adds a little more flavor. You could just use water instead. You could also try to make your polenta with broth. That could be a fun thing, or make it half and half. You can experiment with this. It's kind of fun. And then we'll whisk in the polenta, and that will cook while Helen's talking. And that's all it takes to be able to make polenta. Now, a lot of recipes for polenta have you stirring the polenta the whole like 5, 10, 15 minutes that it takes to cook. Big thing I found out right early in my healthy cooking career is that you do not need to stir it the whole time. And I think I'm seeing more and more recipes where the recipe writer acknowledges that no, you can get by with just stirring it occasionally, like say every couple minutes. But you do need to do just at least that much, because it will stick to the bottom of your pan if you don't. And for that reason, I'm using a real heavy bottom saucepan for this, because that will prevent it from burning from burning to the bottom of the pan, not just stick. And so what I'm going to do is, as Helen's talking, I'm going to stir this every couple of minutes and make sure that it doesn't start clogging up on the bottom of the pan. So I think those were everything I wanted to tell you about polenta. A neat thing about polenta is that tonight, you can serve polenta 2 ways. The first way is you can serve it like as a porridge with, like, say, a daub of our tomato pesto on top and maybe some Parmesan cheese. So you can do it like in a bowl like that. But the other neat thing is that maybe you have that tonight. or the night that you cook it, because you probably haven't gotten busy to cook some polenta tonight. But the other thing you can do is, once you have it like that, then you can take the leftovers, put them in a little loaf pan and let them sit in the refrigerator overnight. In the morning, they're congealed, and you can make them into nice polenta cakes, which you can broil, which you can grill, which you can saute, you know, serve with marinara sauce, all sorts of different things. So it's a really versatile dish. It's also a whole grain dish, which I love that it's a whole grain, and it's it gets us more diet diversity than just usually wheat bread products. It's kind of nice to get a different grain into our diets. And of course, it's also gluten-free. So if you're gluten-free, it's good that way as well. And the other thing is, when Helen gets on, she's going to show you, you can buy ready-made polenta. It's just a lot more expensive that way. And I've actually got the numbers on that. I can tell you, but you know what? Sometimes convenience is worth it to get, and it's a really good clean product that she'll show you that's available at Natural Grocers. So I think that this is about ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead, add my milk, and then we're going to turn this over to Helen, who's going to be talking about the nutritional aspects along with other aspects about zucchini. And you know, we often think of things like zucchini, cucumbers, celery, kind of as nothing vegetables because they're so full of water. And yet I was reading an article just the other day, 2 weeks ago, about cucumber and how many benefits it has. And so I think you're going to be surprised when Helen explains to you just what a great vegetable zucchini is, and that when you eat this zucchini soup, you're doing a lot of good things for your body. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to put this polenta in. My water isn't quite boiling, but it will be. Usually try to wait till it boils. And then what you do is you want to just add it real slowly and gradually, and a whisk is kind of critical for making polenta. Go ahead and whisk it in, and then like I say, I'm going to be continuing to stir this while Helen talks, and while I hope do we have some chats, Lauren, about the people in our contest? I'm hoping.
Just some comments about polenta and different things to put on.
Oh, okay, that's fine too.
So are the ideas in the chat, are those for the is that
the contest?
To enter the contest?
So just to repeat, to enter the contest, this is for the bag of polenta and the wonderful sun-dried tomatoes. Just put your ideas to either vary the soup, or if you want to talk about different polenta ideas, that'd be great too. We just want to get your creative juices rolling. So go ahead, put those in the chat, and Lisa and I, while Helen talks, Lisa and I are going to mute ourselves. We're going to pick some winners, and we'll announce those once Helen's done, and we've talked to add a little feedback about the soup. I want to hear your comments on the soup when we're done with Helen as well. So Helen, can I turn it over to you now?
Yeah, that was really wonderful, Mary.
Oh, good.
I'm getting so hungry, and I was thinking about.
Sorry, you don't get to be in your
kitchen
kitchen cooking this, do you?
No, I'm coming over to your place.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, that was really great. So thank you for such a thorough demonstration. You know, you're always so much fun to watch. And I love to look at your kitchen too for ideas of how you set things up and do all that. So, okay, so I am going to do my screen sharing here.
And then I'll wait for.
And there, hopefully this will screen share. And can everybody see that okay? I guess a nod or a yes or a thumbs up or something. Okay. I'm thinking everybody can see my screen here. Yes, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the nutritional content of zucchini, because as Mary said, we typically think of it as, okay, it has water, it's very light, maybe it has some fiber. We don't really think of the nutritional, any nutritional, you know, depth of it. But in fact, zucchini is rich in a variety, pretty much all the B vitamins, maybe except vitamin B12. So all the B vitamins, carotenoids like lutein and zeaxanthin, I'm going to talk more about those in just a moment, but also a full array of minerals, including potassium, phosphorus, copper, and even magnesium. And all of these nutrients are readily available, and they should be easily digested and absorbed. So I think that, you know, we often forget too that vegetables contain fat and protein. And I really want to give mention to fat here, because while zucchini is low in fat, maybe about 0.5 gram per cup, the fat is really unique. The fat is stored in its edible seeds, and it is unique in composition because it contains omega-3 fats, which we typically think of in, say, fish oil or flax oil. The fat also contains monounsaturates, which is similar to what we get from olive oil, and also medium chain fats we find in zucchini, which is similar to what you get in coconut. So while very low in fat, it is rich in abundance of variety of fatty acids. So lots of nutrition there. And okay, I seem to be not moving forward. There we go. Okay, so in addition to all the vitamins and minerals and all the phytonutrients, there's a specific grouping of phytonutrients in zucchini called carotenoids. And in fact, there are 700 carotenoids identified in plants in general, including lutein and zeaxanthin and other beta-carotene in general. About 50 of these carotenoids are found in the human diet, 14 are synthesized in the human body, and only 2 exist naturally in the macula. And here's where zucchini really stands out. These 2 are lutein and zeaxanthin, and several studies have shown that lutein and zeaxanthin help to protect the skin and the eyes from photo damage from exposure to UVB and UVA sun rays. So that's kind of a unique thing about zucchini. And a little bit more here, lutein and zeaxanthin supporting skin health and eye health because they act as free radical scavengers. They're quenching free radicals in these tissues to protect us. So I think about free radical scavengers like little Pac-Men that go around and gobbling up these unstable molecules, these free radicals that we are exposed to all the time from light, from pollution, from the foods we eat, from just exposure to the environment. So that's really a unique ability about plants, is that they contain these free radical scavengers. So Mary, would you like me to go on to shopping, or would you like me to come back to that?
Okay. Okay. We just finished the judging. I can't wait for the prizes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You wanted to talk about shopping? Yes, please.
You want me to come? Would you like me to come back to that, or just go ahead into that? Whatever you want.
No, I think it'd be a good time to do it right now. Okay. And I have got a good example of one that's maybe one you wouldn't want to pick out.
Okay.
Show them a good one, and I'll show them one if you want that I wouldn't. And I'm continuing to stir my polenta.
Okay, so when shopping, I have 2 examples here. This is a typical yellow or summer squash, and then this is a typical green variety of summer squash. And these are both in very good condition. They have very little nicks. They have very little, very little damage to them. And remember that when you're shopping for produce, by the time it gets delivered and gets taken out of the boxes that it comes in and gets put on the shelf and gets handled by other customers, it may end up with a little bit of damage to it. So I think in general, you are looking for heavy and shiny pieces like this one that you can see here. You want to avoid as much as possible any kind of dings or cuts into the skin, because that can encourage more oxidation and decay. And the other point with vegetables, fresh vegetables, especially zucchini, is that you can freeze it. So you can cut it, You can do a little cooking to it, or you can just freeze it, freeze it after you cut it, which would be fine.
And Helen,
Yep.
Helen, is this a good time I can show them what mine
Yeah,
looks
please.
like?
Yep,
I'm
let's
going to
see.
hold this up and hopefully you can see it. Ooh, just a
Oh,
minute.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lauren's just pulling it over so we can see.
Where are you?
So,
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
so it looks a little yellow, or is that the light?
It could be the light. Let's see.
Uh-huh.
Laura is just trying to. Well, can you stop sharing for just a second, Helen?
Me? Yep. Hold on one sec. Stop share. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Now Lauren will come back over to me putting gallery. You're fine. There I am.
I see a lot of nicks in there. Yeah.
Yes. And then do P. Okay. That's close.
Yeah.
Yes. You can see I got this at the farmer's market and it was in a huge bin. And yeah. So those are the kind of things that you'd want to avoid if you can. Now, the happy news is that when I was cutting the one zucchini that had a couple of these, I just took my vegetable peeler and just skimmed those off. No problem. But if you're going to keep them for a long time, like Helen said, I mean, the problem is that can be where decay enters. And so that's why you want to avoid that. But it's not necessarily, I mean, if you end up and you get home with that, it's not the end of the world. Just take care of it and store it correctly.
Yeah.
And then, were you talking about freezing too?
Yeah, freezing is a way to, freezing, it can be done with zucchini. It can survive freezing, but as with many vegetables, it can still get a little moist from the, wet and mushy from the moisture. So I myself don't freeze it, but, and I don't can. That's just not something I have expertise in, but,
well,
sure.
what I can add on the freezing is that the zucchini does lose texture more than other vegetables because it is so much water.
Yeah,
And
good
so
point.
What I've discovered over the years is that I do freeze it because I usually have a lot in my garden. What I've discovered is that, okay, if I can get rid of some of that water and condense it, maybe it'll freeze okay. So what I do is I get my food processor out, grate it, then saute it until most of the moisture's out. Then I can pack that in jars and it still loses texture, but it's good enough to be able to like put in scrambles in the morning or like a stir fry or something like that, or a soup like this.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point about, Rose mentioned in the chat about making zucchini bread. When you grate zucchini to make zucchini bread, that's right, there's a lot of moisture. You have to squeeze out all that water. So you don't realize it at first that a zucchini has a lot of water, but when you go to grate it, it's, I would love that, Lisa, your zucchini brownie recipe. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, so there is a lot of moisture in it. Now, as far as storing, you definitely can store it. And I know that we live in, plastic hell in the United States, excuse me, we do, but we have these awesome bags that are called Stasher. So has anybody ever used these? I love these bags. They're made out of silicone and they keep everything fresh. You can cut an avocado and with the pit in and store it, get all the air out and then store it in these Stasher bags and it will preserve that half of an avocado. So I do store, I'll wash my vegetables and I will use these Stasher bags to store my vegetables because it is really a challenge to move away from plastic. So I just wanted to show you these bags here for storage.
Great idea. And then Helen, did you have some other ideas for using zucchini or maybe you had that cookbook?
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yes. Hold on. Let me.
If you can't pull that slide up, you can just share it with people.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then you just tell me when we're going to do the GMO part.
Oh, and I hope I didn't get you out of order.
No, I'm fine. I can backtrack.
Oh.
So, let me screen share here again. Oops.
Oh, and Helen, you know what? I remembered you were going to talk a little bit about GMOs, which I was surprised to find out. That was slide 5.
Yeah, so why don't you want to do that first, or do you want me to
Let's do,
show
because
the?
that's kind of part of
Okay.
shopping.
Yeah, okay, good point, good point. So let me just backtrack. I need to screen share, and it's a lot of multitasking here. So thank you for bearing with me.
No, you're
Okay.
doing good.
All right. Okay, back to, yes, okay, so we're going to, I want to give a little bit of a chat on the GMOs for a moment. So, you know, here at Natural Grocers, and I'll mention this again at the end, we are gearing up for Organic Harvest Month, which starts September 1st, and we have different activities and things going on with that. But what goes along with celebrating organics is understanding GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, because they have just permeated our food supply. And they are absolutely part of our modern industrial agricultural system. It's very hard to escape them because of how they have infiltrated, even in very minute amounts. Now, some of you might be okay with GMOs in your food, but it is good to know as consumers, we have choices when we shop. Unfortunately, some zucchini squash varieties are now genetically modified, and they have been altered to provide resistance against plant viruses that frequently infect the commercial squash and zucchini crops. The genetically modified varieties that you can see here are the yellow straight neck, the yellow crook neck, and the green zucchini squash. The good news is that you can absolutely purchase them organic, which Natural Grocers, you know, is known for having all organic produce all the time. In a conventional grocery store, if you found both options, Monsanto has a vegetable seed brand called Seminis, S-E-M-I-N-I-S. It's a registered trademark. And just know that a conventional option is probably this Monsanto brand, because they really do have the market in so much of the commercial produce items. So again, it's good to know that you can still get these organic. Read the labels. Whatever grocery store you shop in, ask the produce department what they have to offer. And really the best part is that when you buy USDA certified organic, you will not be getting any of the GMO options, because being certified organic, jumping through all of those hoops automatically is a non-GMO option. It is one of the criteria to be certified organic. So that is a great way when you are shopping to ask a lot of questions. It is really, really hard to get around this stuff anymore. So that's all I will add there. At the very end, again, I'm gonna, I have some websites where you can do your own research and all that. So that's my little piece there on the GMOs. Any questions? Feel free to chat. Yes.
I think there was a couple questions about the stasher bags.
Let me get back to Zoom and let's see. I'm going to stop screen sharing here for a moment. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry about
questions.
Yep. Stasher bags. Yep. I just had to get back to Zoom. So you want me to open it so you can see what they're like? Sure. Let me see if I can open one of these. Yeah, what I can do is open it. I can't really, that's a good question, but let me try. Okay.
Helen, while you're doing that, somebody else mentioned that they dry the zucchini, and that is a great idea. I've done that before too. And
yeah,
then they add it to spaghetti sauce. That's a great idea. So,
yeah, I have never dried zucchini, so that's a great idea. So inside a stasher bag, these are just the silicone. So they're pretty plain inside. They come in a variety of colors, and I wash it with simply dish soap, and I use I use 7th generation dish soap, so I don't want anything that has petroleum remnants in it or that's oily in any way. So I just do, a sponge with dish soap, and then I put it on top of a knife a butter knife or something that's in the drying rack, just so, or a spatula or whatever is there, just so it can get air while it dries. So that's how I do that. And I just think these bags are great. They don't wash them. Of course, they're a great invention.
Oh, great. Well, I think we have just a couple of minutes here. We want to make sure that we get to the prizes. But Helen, you had some other ideas about zucchini. I mean, we talked about the soup, but you had an idea about, I think, spiralizing them. And I think people, they know that's a great idea. The bread, I think you had a couple of others. You don't have to put the screen share up if you don't want to, or if you can.
Let me just share this.
Yeah. Look at you.
Getting the hang of it is what I am. Yeah, so as far as resources go, we carry these books here. One of them is called Inspiralized. I believe we're just out of that one, so I couldn't show it. The other two in the series, this one's called Inspiralize Everything. It's just an extension of the basic Inspiralized book. And you can see on the cover all the different ways that you can spiralize vegetables. And this other one is called, same author, it's called Inspiralized and Beyond. And this happens to be on our markdown shelf, Inspiralized and Beyond. So she's just taken the topic of spiralizing and really expanded upon it. And as far as other recipes and other ideas, absolutely zucchini bread. I don't bake very much, but I love experimenting with vegetables in bread, actually. I like zucchini bread. I've used sweet potatoes in bread, with alternative flours and such. But we have at Natural Grocers, we actually have an extensive recipe finder on our website. So everyone can see here, naturalgrocers.com/recipe-finder. The non-GMO project.org is where you can learn all about GMOs, what the current ratings are, what the current percentages of how much different foods are genetically modified in our American food supply. And then one of my favorite sites is the Environmental Working Group, and they publish the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So if anybody wants to learn more about what the cleanest produce items are and what the dirtiest produce items are, strawberries are #1 again. And believe it or not, leafy greens, kale, collards, and mustard greens are also, again, #3 on the list. Celery is #11. We were just looking at this today at our staff meeting. So environmentalworkinggroup.org, you can learn a lot about the different lists that they publish. And then my contact information, Natural Grocers here in Lafayette, my phone number. And then do you want me to do our other upcoming events now, or do you want me to wait till the end?
Why don't we wait till the end on that? Because I bet you everybody's excited to hear about our prizes.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And I want to also just show you real quick the polenta. And Helen is also going to, at the end, when she shares that other information, she's going to also, she has a coupon offer for everybody.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. And then I just want to show you how this polenta looks when it's done. So you can see this polenta, it just looks so yummy. It's got, if you can tip that a little. There, you can see that it's just a creamy polenta, especially with that milk in it. There, I think you see it. You can see it's pretty thick. I kept stirring it so it didn't stick to the bottom. But let me go ahead and keep the camera on, and I'll show you as I pour it out. You can see how thick it is. That's about how thick you want it. And so then you can serve this, like I say, like porridge style. And we'll just put a little bit of our sun-dried tomato pesto on top. Here we go. This looks so good. Lisa picked this out for us. And then, of course, if you wanted Parmesan cheese or anything, that would be a wonderful thing. And then some people in the chat have talked about some different ideas for polenta. There's so much you can do. Like, remember, as I said, take the leftovers, put them in a little pan, let them congeal, and then you've got these nice squares as well. And Helen, I think, do you mind just holding up to your camera the ready-made stuff? But like I said, it's pretty expensive compared to like just making a batch with your own polenta from the bulk aisle. So.
Yeah, so this is the bulk item, and this is the same kind of thing that Lisa, that they're giving away tonight. This is just our bulk item. We sell it, I think, for like $1.69.
That's right.
Yep, super inexpensive. And this is a prepared version of polenta by Ancient Harvest. It is USDA organic, non-GMO project verified. This is a very good pre-made polenta. You'd still get a lot out of this. And it gives, you know, cooking directions on the back. So
Right.
in a pinch, this could work.
It is, and you can have that on hand. So that, yeah, it's last minute, and oh my goodness, I just need something quick. That's a great option, you know. And I think you can get it for like, you know, under $3. And so, yeah, it's more expensive than the dry, but relatively speaking, for a prepared food, that's really pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, all right, Lisa, are you here? Are we ready to give some prizes out?
I am here.
Okay.
So yeah, thanks. I just want to say thank you to Helen and Mary again for a wonderful program. I'm like starving for zucchini now, and I didn't think I would be. So we had lots of great suggestions in the chat. And these are not in any order of first, second, or third. We're just gonna give out 3 prizes. So Julianne actually submitted 2 ideas: broccoli with sauteed onion and cheese on top. And she also submitted cauliflower, onions, red pepper, and topped with chives.
Nice.
And I'm not a super big fan of cauliflower, like in general, but a lot of people seem to like it. So maybe I'll try it.
Well,
I'm a
maybe,
super
and think
fan
about
of
different
broccoli.
seasonings that you could put in, Lisa, that maybe would make it a little more interesting for you too.
Yeah, I'm a super big fan of broccoli, so definitely broccoli cheese soup. And then, so thank you for those ideas, Julianne. And I think, I just want to mention, if you are a prize winner, if you want to unmute yourself and remind me if you're at a different branch or if you're going to come pick it up at Erie, but I can email you too, just to let you know where to come pick it up, or I can send it up to a different library for you. And then also Kaylee suggested a carrot ginger soup, and then Helen suggested adding coconut milk to that to make it creamier. And then our other 3rd prize winner is Rose Kimball, and she suggested using soup as a base for any veggie soup. Add cheese and sweet potato and I'm gonna butcher this word, gomasio seaweed sesame spice mix.
Gomasio.
Gomasio, okay. That replaces the salt, and it doesn't have a fishy taste, so you don't need to worry about that. And then she also said you can serve polenta with cooked veggies on top, cheese, avocado, and herbs.
So great. I hope everybody got to look. We got 3 winners, but really there were so many good ideas in there. So I'm really excited that we got to share these, and maybe everybody got at least one new idea. I hope you understood how to use the soup system to come up with these ideas. Maybe you can give me a emoticon in the chat, like, does the soup system make sense? Can you see how you might be able to use it? And this kind of shows how also, you know, in these classes, I got a feeling that almost everybody who participates in them knows how to cook. And I think any of you could cook this recipe. But you know what I think is the neatest thing about when we get together and cook together is that we help inspire each other, and we build this community that's all about making good meals that save our health and deliver really vibrant health to us. So I want to thank all of you for coming and just being a part of this community and helping us kind of all support and inspire each other. And so with that though, I do also want to hear, did the soup system make sense? And then also, what's your feedback on the soup? I hope all of you took time to taste and adjust it. Maybe you've had your soup for dinner. But does anybody have any feedback about, like, would you have changed this or that? I thought it was really interesting that Tori, she did a whole different thing. She put her zucchini and black beans together, I think, and as a dish with the Cuban island spice on top or something like that. So just be sure to read the chat and get all those ideas out.
Can Can I just add my last slide then before?
Oh, sure. Yes. Let's do that.
Just...
And Helen, don't forget to talk about your coupon.
Okay, gotcha. So one last thing for everyone. Just wanted to, let me just screen share this one last slide. It's kind of the obligatory slide. So Natural Grocers, September is Organic Harvest Month for the whole month, starts September 1st. The weekend of the 16th to the 18th, though, we'll be running special deals, giving away a bag. And throughout the whole month, we're raising money for a group called Beyond Pesticides that is raising money throughout the country to clean up parks and playgrounds. And there's actually, the last few years, in Longmont, a specific playground was chosen to receive funds from this organization. So it is an organization that is serving local communities. And there's a $5 off if you spend $66 that day. So that is that weekend. So that is happening in September. I am one of the nutritional health coaches. We always offer free nutritional health coaching. Feel free to check in with me by appointment. We're doing either phone or virtual appointments. And then we're still celebrating turmeric. Great for inflammaging and improving your health span. So you could always check in with me on that. And for attending our class tonight, every person on the call has earned a $5 off coupon to shop with us. You can use it at any one of our stores. The only caveat is that I can't email that out. So it is something you will have to pick up. And I think Lisa's going to come and collect. I think there's 13 people on the call. So she will come and collect 13 coupons and they'll be dated a week. So depending, as soon as she can get here, I'll date them with that expiration date. And so I hope that you're able to come in and see me or come into any of our stores and and pick up some great things, some zucchini, some polenta, whatever feels right, some spices, any of our bulk spices that feels right. So I do appreciate everybody coming and listening and participating.
Well, and thank you, Helen, for contributing this. It's so nice to have the nutritional element brought in. Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh, well, this was so fun, and I am happy. I think we're at 6:30, a little over. Yep. I'm happy to stay on, though. I'm happy to answer questions. I would love to hear feedback on how people like the soup, what you did to it, how you made it taste just the way you want. And Helen, I think she's probably still here. She can answer any nutritional questions. Mm-hmm. So yes, but thank you again, everyone. I just love having these classes, and it's wonderful to have you all here to join me.